Hey guys, welcome back to Parkitect. So the votes are in, and the map that wins this round for this episode is going to be Pagoda Valley. I think it won 47% of the vote out of I think 192-ish votes or something of that nature. So we're going to do this one. I was really hoping for Hickory Hill because I had some cool ideas, but it's okay. I'll do Pagoda Valley. I have some ideas, very rough ideas, of what I could theme this to, but I might just pull a Silverette and just, copy his stuff most likely, and maybe add some of that Astro flair to it. I'd really want to maybe make a not Chinese, it has to be Japanese dragon of some sort, maybe on top of the station for this coaster. Let me just read the description real quick. A secluded valley presents an ideal location for a thrilling roller coaster park. The nearby temple is fine with your use of the land, but as long as you respect the existing structures. You had to take a small loan to get your park started, but now you're ready to go. Okay. 500 guests, very simple. It's not as hard as this one, as Coaster Canyon, but 500 is very easy, especially when you're already having two coasters. No loan debt, so we have to pay off the loan that was pulled. 800 tickets, and year 3. So I could get gold if I really pushed myself. But let's go take a quick look at what we got. I need to check scenery and what rides we get in the beginning and figure out where everything goes, basically. Actually, let's just leave it on pause. So here's the coaster. There's 2 of them here. Okay. Pretty epic looking, actually. I kind of like how it just kind of whips around the terrain here. I just realized there's a waterfall right here. Yeah, there's a waterfall here. Okay, so the river just kind of goes through the valley. Makes sense. And so this map is very hilly like Honey Hills. So I'm curious if I can't delete this, right? Oh yeah, so it actually tells you can't delete it. Can I delete that? No, I can't delete that. Can I delete this thing? Oh, I can delete this thing. I can delete the arch. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but this is cool. I know that Silverette made this map, so I'll probably pull from here, things like that. I want to fix some of it. I don't like some of the edges not being bordered, but that's just me. Yeah, here's the station. Very simple, Japanese style. I know in Sylv's video he did a Japanese village, and I kind of like that idea of doing a Japanese village here, like an old-fashioned one, but I want to do maybe some modern twists to it. So modern Japanese buildings have maybe a street kind of come up here, maybe, if I can figure that out. I want to make some Chinese. I keep saying Chinese, it's Japanese. Japanese dragons maybe on top of this building, kind of like as the ride's sign or something. Yeah, that would be interesting. It would be interesting to kind of venture this way a little bit and fill this in, but this is such a sheer drop into the valley, so maybe not. There's this area back here I can utilize as well, so there's direction to go. So we're already in the scenery tab. Looks like we only have a very few options here. So spooky, so I'm assuming we have spooky props. We do. Cool. We can maybe do some Japanese haunted house or something. That'd be neat if I build a dark ride. Yeah, just generic. A generic and some steam. Wait, I just looked at steampunk. So do we have gears still? Oh, we don't have gears. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm assuming we have the walls. Yeah. And then, oh, excuse me, I am now getting sneezes. That's okay. Let's see here. Let's go check the rides. Teacups, Wave Swinger. No, not the best. Twister, that's fine. Hypercoaster. We get a hypercoaster right off the bat. Well, that's exciting. Ooh, how would I put that in? A hypercoaster, kind of like Mako or something, or that would be interesting. Let's do that. Let's make a hypercoaster off the bat, probably. A suspended coaster, okay. Monorail. Ooh, monorail's cool. Ooh, wouldn't that be cool if I made this look like a subway or something? If I took the monorail and kind of made it go through here and underground, kind of just hide it. But maybe. That might be cool. Stalls, bubble tea, hot dogs, toilets, vending machine, typical stuff. And we're already researching thrill rides. Yeah, I should have already researched something else. Actually, we can do thrill rides off the bat. It's not a problem there. So, cool. So, yeah, we'll just figure out what we can do. That's such a long walk for you guys. So, the first thing actually I want to change these to $12 a coaster because it will make me ridiculous amounts of money at this point. I am curious, how much money is everybody holding in their hands? $112. That's actually a pretty good chunk of cash. How about this guy? 78. Okay, that's the average. Basically, this guy is leaving. These people are coming in. $104. Okay, that's not bad. So our guests are relatively have money, but everybody seems to be beelining to the two coasters out here. So yeah, that's let's just get on to some building and build some, I don't know, Japanese style village, some dragon statues and some sort, and then yeah, we'll just go from there. Okay, let's get started. So whenever it comes to a new campaign level, map, whatever you want to call it, I usually have to build the first building, and the first building is going to be my baseline of the theme I'm going for. And so this park's theme is going to be Japanese, but I wanted to make it more a modern village / town, and something completely different from other players like Sylv or other typical traditional Japanese structures that I've seen other players do. So again, also Japanese structures are not my forte, so this was kind of a learning experience in itself, trying to figure out how to make it look pretty close to a Japanese architecture and still trying to make it appropriate. So the first building is just going to be a tea shop, and basically my baseline of what a Japanese structure looks like. From my perspective, it's basically made of lots of wood and timber and then tiled roofing. So I knew from the get-go I was going to do tiled roofing with shapes. So that was one main objective. And then do a lot of pillars and borders to kind of suggest that it's all made of wooden beams and stuff like that. And then giant, like, picturesque windows, basically what a Japanese building is going to look like. So I played around with some different tiles and things. So here's the shapes. I'm using cubes, 45 degree. I use a 45 degree roof actually the entire build. So just trying to figure that out. Also, what was so difficult about this map was the terrain. This was kind of the first taste of really difficult terrain. I thought Honey Hills was bad. No, it was... Pagoda Valley was pretty bad. But I think I figured out how to use it quite properly. And it worked out okay. So the shapes that I'm using are going to be cubes and cylinders. And I think the cylinders are at 0.18 on grid 8. And kind of just simulate that tile look, a different tile look versus, let's say, my Batavia K one map with the pirate map. It's completely a different type of tile, so I was excited to do a different type of tile work or figure something out. So this was kind of a way to do it. Used a lot of shapes again. This was a very expensive building. But this is basically your baseline. Figuring out what you do. It's basically what you do with any map that you start with. I encourage you guys to test out a build, tweak it, change it. Parks are never finished, actually, so when you're building in this game or any other game that's creative, always continue to change things, tweak things here and there, stuff like that. Also on top of this building was a little sign I made for the bubble tea shop. I thought it was appropriate to have some type of sign, and I don't do signs as often, so this was kind of just making a little custom little sign. It looks okay. I'm not like totally in love with it, but it kind of betrays that this is a little tea shop. And then the cobblestone road, or actually the brick road, actually it's going to be an actual road. So my thought was, okay, so this is going to be a little road for the village, and then it kind of just rounds about on top near the coaster station, then come back down. So that was kind of the vision in my head. So we're going to jump ahead basically. I built basically most of this building off camera, and then I decided to do more different type of tile work. So I have 2 different tiled roofing here to give every building a different variation. So I've said this so many times already. When you want to work on a building or make buildings for an area, you want to make them kind of similar, have key features, so certain pillars, certain materials, but then you want to give them different characteristics. That's basically what you do here. You either change a roof, you change the color, you change where the pillars are positioned, you change window types, but still kind of sell the idea that this is from the same culture / theme, and that's kind of what I did here. And then also helping with the, not disdained look, it's more like a weathered look. You make the colors all different colors, or different, what's the word? Vibrant colors, not vibrant, disdained. That's the word I'm looking for, oh my gosh, disdained. And then when it came to trees, I decided to use the alder. I think it's called the alder tree, A-L-D-E-R. I haven't used that tree before, and I tried to also use the cypress tree. I didn't like that one. Or was that the pine tree? I can't remember what tree that was. Because most of this map was actually using the old tree set, so it's kind of weird to kind of mix the two. So I kind of had to ignore some of the trees around the area or delete some. But I'm always trying to find a new set of trees to use in all my campaign maps to give that different look or different environment feel. So I haven't used the alder tree in a while, and I also wanted to use pine trees because I looked up some pictures quickly of what a Japanese Japanese landscape looks like, or countryside. So I kind of figured it was very more pine tree like and things like that, so, or more woodland. And then off to making the street, I used actually doing some path covering, which you can do in vanilla. It takes up a lot of shapes, but I took cube shape, put it at 1.01, which is just above the path, placed it into the ground, and then there you go. And I'm making a stone covered street with like a concrete siding or concrete walkway. So I wanted to give it some natural looking curvature to it, and just covering up some of the paths. Basically, it's basically what I did for Super Nintendo World, which was the last mini diorama. I encourage you guys to go watch that. That was been a couple weeks since I posted that video, but I kind of used that here. That was kind of a fun little accident, actually. It was just to give it some different look. And then back to working on some more tiled roofing. Again, these are cylinders at 0.18 on grid 8, and then blueprint them so to make my life easier, and then just plop them down and then make a covered top with some shapes to kind of bring it all together. Then some more details, trucks. I had some more fences. I usually pick a fence that I want to use throughout my build to kind of tie everything together. That's usually the objective in my head. And also during this whole process, I thought to incorporate something to the train station or the coaster station that's already in the map. Because at this point, the last couple maps that I've played have already existing coasters, and so this dueling inverted coaster here was a prime candidate to have some dragons. Some Chinese dragons, not Chinese, they're Japanese. Again, Chinese and Japanese architecture or cultures are very similar. Not the same, but they're similar, and so it's kind of hard to figure out what's Japanese and what's Chinese, so I had to go figure that out quickly. But these are Japanese dragons. One's going to be yellow, one's going to be red. They're actually matching the coaster's colors. And then, yeah, I wanted to see if I can pull this off in vanilla. So this is my second attempt at... Not my second attempt. This is my second sculpture of a creature, because the first one was in Ice Shelf Islands. That was fun. I made that dragon. And I'm making another dragon, so it just seems like I'm just going to be building dragons for the rest of this campaign. Might make a cyberpunk dragon or something. That'd be fun. A robotic dragon. That'd be cool. Some other weird ideas I had for this map was make a Godzilla, and I just didn't fit in my later. It didn't fit later, so I was going to make some type of giant Godzilla or something of that nature. But maybe it can happen in the next Japanese themed map. I wanted to build Godzilla, but it's not going to happen in this map. So the dragons are all made of spheres, half hemispheres, some diagonal ones that have the mouths open. And just kind of feeling it out, figuring out the position of where these guys are going to stand. I like the idea of having the dragons kind of intertwined with each other, because they're kind of just, one's going over the other one's kind of just going under the other dragon, and they kind of just are entwined like the coaster itself. Then I used some bushes for their, I don't know what you call it. It's like the ridge of their back. It's like decorated with either it's like hair or spikes, but with Japanese dragons they're more have hair and spikes and things like that on them, so that's kind of what I was trying to imitate with the leaves or the bushes, because the bushes to me look like hair or a different type of fiber, and it's a nice little way to add texture to an already textureless sculpture, and that's kind of what was the objective here for these dragons. Then yeah, you can just watch how I'm trying to fit all the pieces in and then make their eyes. So the eyes, actually the pupils of the dragons are actually the orb lights that cling themselves to walls. I just painted them black so they don't turn on when night happens, so they just stay black. Because that's a very easy piece for me to precisely put in, because it just attaches to itself to any item. So I've used that piece before in some other builds that kind of help with the precise placement of stuff. Yeah, looking good so far. I like how these dragons sit. I think these are the more unique sculptures I've built. I want to build more creatures as these dioramas continue. Or not dioramas, these campaign maps continue, because every map I think deserves some type of statue of some sort. But I also was thinking in a theme park terms, like you would have some type of big type of structure or creature to kind of draw guests to this coaster. And at this point, this was the only coaster that was operational in the park at the moment, because this campaign map entirely is actually one of the easier ones, is because of the coasters exist. The only thing that was difficult was trying to just get the guest generation, but once you place down one or two more flat rides and then maybe an additional coaster, you can easily get that, I think it was a 500 guest count, and I did. And then paying off your loan is going to be quite easy too, because you just price each coaster at $12 or $15 each. You're making bank, and so you can already tell with me sitting at $40,000, it wasn't a struggle. This was one of the more easier maps. Also, I'd like to also note the nostrils for the dragons are tires, so I've used those pieces too. I just used so many random pieces just to get the dragons' details kind of pop out. Trying to figure out their tails. The downside by using bushes is they don't get pretty small. They stay one size at a certain. Yeah, they stay at a certain size, and sometimes that's infuriating to work with. And also when stacking them, they kind of look weird. They kind of have a weird gap in spacing in between them, so that's been difficult to work with too. But I accept the challenge, because that's what vanilla is all about, is figuring out the limitations of these parts. And it's like building a Lego. Again, I've said this before. But yeah, the dragons look pretty cool. And then I used a cool little technique using the letters to add their mustache and beards to the dragons, because they're supposed to be a symbol of wisdom, I'm assuming. So actually one dragon gets like a mustache and the other one doesn't, so I make them a little bit different to each other. So I want to say that they're brothers, and they have a duel, basically. I think that's what the coaster's about, but the coaster's not really named after any dragons, but in my headcanon, this is kind of like a dragon coaster, so there could be a small little story built into this coaster. And this is kind of my centerpiece in the entire map anyway, is those two dragons. So on to actually building my first coaster in this map. and I felt it was fitting to add a hypercoaster to kind of just weave around the empty spots that I had on the hills to kind of just fill it in. So that's what I opted in to try to do, is just build a very twisty type of hypercoaster layout to kind of just fill in those spaces. So like this mountain edge is very empty. I didn't want to build more flat rides or buildings on top of it. I think it would just look weird, so I opted in just building a simple hypercoaster to kind of just whip around. Originally I was going to go this way around the other empty spots near the inverted coasters. That didn't work out, didn't look nice. I tried to even do underground shenanigans. It was just not selling it for me, so I changed that. So don't be afraid to change your direction quite frequently. I change my ideas all the time, and I especially don't like going underground because the tunnels look so jank, but that's probably why I didn't want to do underground. I was going to try to hide them. And the objective was also to make this coaster very exciting so that I can get the remaining amount of guests that I need. I think I needed about 300 at this point, no, maybe 200. It says 296. So I needed 300 more guests to complete the goal. And that was the objective. So we just go into a drop to a little bit of a up a hill into a turnaround, and then back down another hill into, I think, the first brake run, or mid-course brake run, which is actually right here. I'm going to build one. Yeah, there's the brake. Mid-course brake, because every hyper needs one. And I didn't really model this after anyone particularly. Maybe I took some inspirations from Mako to Fury, some other ones that I was looking at. Maybe, what's that one in Hershey Park? What's that one called? I think it's called Candemonium. Yeah, Candemonium. I kind of took from features from there. So hypers have their traits, basically. So that was kind of the objective here. So actually, this hypercoaster is actually one of the coasters that runs the most trains. This runs 3 trains because of that mid-course. And this is a people eater. It's great to have this coaster actually in this map, and then it made me a whole bunch of money too. I charged, I think, 12, 13 bucks for it, and it helped with the money, but also didn't help. Oh no, it helped with the guest count. It did, but I had to do, I think, a park campaign to get the guests in, and then it went from there. So when it came to the station cover, I decided to do a very generic Asian Chinese / Japanese temple. And so I found a couple art pieces on ArtStation, kind of looked at that, kind of imitated it. I was going to single tile this with shapes, but then I got lazy on doing that, and so I wanted just to keep it basic and simple instead of going over the board with the shapes. Because sometimes I feel sometimes if I use shapes too much, it kind of gets convoluted and kind of just disappears. So I just opted to just do a very typical way you would build a temple in Parkitect standards. So pillars, borders, regular roofs. I will stain them to help with the weathered look to it, because all buildings outside should look weathered. And then I just kind of built a very typical station. And a temple worked out because how wide the hypercoaster stations are, because they're width by 3, and then whatever how long your train station is. I usually made it 6 units, so it's a 3x6, so it's pretty large as it is. So I do like how this looks, and I like that it's like kind of hidden in the valley in the back here, and the guests have to walk around. It's a long walk. I could have utilized a monorail or something underneath the ground to kind of help with that, but I opted not to do that. And then I need to add a additional bathroom and vending machine, because that would be a long walk to go to the first restrooms in the beginning of the park. So yeah, notes on bathrooms. I don't know, just something I thought about. When building a park, you should have at least bathrooms in the front of your park and in the far reaches of your park, and then you have a couple sprinkled in the middle. It's kind of how it should go, because you don't want to walk super long because you need to go to the bathroom and there's no bathroom, and so you get in trouble. Again, you need to have the bathrooms periodically in your park. So I think I have enough. I only have 2 restrooms, I think, in this park. I should have added another one at the pagoda, because the pagoda you can't remove. I added some restaurants in that little building. I think that was on purpose. That building's left empty, and so I just added some additional shops for guests to kind of gravitate toward, and then there you go. You got your little restaurant halfway up the hill to the next place. Since I've been doing realism in my campaign playthroughs, it was appropriate to add a actual transfer track and maintenance house right behind the temple. This temple, well, this shed you won't mostly see unless you're on the coaster, so kind of what I did here. I just opted in making a very simple shed and transfer track system. Nothing super detailed or crazy. It works out. It looks okay. I didn't really spend much time on it, honestly, so it works for me. And then the trees and stuff needed to happen later, because that's what the hard part was, trying to fill in my spaces of trees and plants. And I think that's what the purpose of trees and plants are, is to fill in those empty spaces. Unless you're going for a desert dystopian look, then yeah, you leave it open. But for this is a Japanese valley, trees are quite important to have, and so I needed to fill those spaces in. Yeah, nothing else to really talk about with the transfer track. Is you've seen me do this a dozen times now. Sometimes I get too lazy on making them, sometimes I do, so it goes here and there. Also to note, the launch drop tower I just added, that was going to be my second flat ride. So I only placed around 3 rides to finish this campaign map. So like I've said before, this map is easy. It's very easy. And the scenery helps a lot with getting guests in there, because the immersion level is at full cap, and then I just had to do a simple campaign advertisement, and I got the remaining guests, and then I completed the map. So yeah, it was actually, I thought I was going to have a harder time with this map versus others. So yeah, nothing else really to talk about besides just finishing up some finishing details on the pass, making sure I have enough benches and some break rooms. So I added a break room here actually underground that connected to the little restroom shop here. And then I'm going to add a gazebo that I actually made for the coaster station. For the inverted, I'm just going to blueprint that over because I like the design I had originally. So I might as well reuse it and just repurpose it. So I'm going to leave you guys here, and we're going to take a tour of Pagoda Valley. I'll see you over there. Okay, welcome to Pagoda Valley. So far, in this scenario, it seems pretty straightforward to completing the goals and building a somewhat of a themed area or themed park. So we're going to start off with the first area that I built in this whole endeavor. Was a small little, I don't know, modern / old Japanese village. So you kind of get to see how the street kind of just winds itself up the road, or up the hills and the mountains. So here's our first little village. It was surprising how much I was able to cram in such a small space, but I think it worked out pretty well. Doing custom tile roofing is always hard work, but in the long run it really does look great. So as we venture up here, we go to this little statue, the kind of roundabout. Imagine the cars would come around. And then this, I think I'm going to call this, it's like a temple entrance, not necessarily a pagoda, but a temple entrance. I wanted something in between, transition between this to the already existing coaster with my 2 dragons on top, which I find the most entertaining. I had actually building creatures, and doing this was actually quite fun to do, especially with using bushes as their spines and adding some decorational letters for their beards, or I don't know, yeah, you would call them beards. Yeah, these dragons are ancient, so they represent some type of wisdom or something. I don't know. something about dragons and Japanese culture. I don't know much, but I like dragons, so I built that. The only thing that you couldn't touch was this, which was fine. That wasn't really the challenging part of the scenario. The only thing that I found challenging about this scenario was trying to build on the hills. Just like Honey Hills was just the same difficulty. Trying to find out what I can flatten, what I can build, and then go from there. It's a funny thing, actually, in this whole scenario, I've only put down 2 flat rides. Come to think of it, like I put down this one. This is the drop tower or the launch tower, and then a twister down here. That's all I needed. And then the 2 coasters that already exist is already helping with guest generation. And then building the last coaster was the hyper, and I have my guest count. So all I need to do is pay off a loan, I think. Yeah, let's go pay off my loan. Just like a measly $4,000. Okay, let's just get rid of that. Okay, there you go. Okay, that's done. And then I should just, yeah, there you go. I just get the scenario. This is actually one of the shorter scenarios I've played. I'm only on year 8, but I kind of was lagging because I was trying to think of ideas and fill in some spaces and things like that. But overall, this scenario is actually pretty straightforward in difficulty. So I would rate this a 7 or 8 if I was even going to rate these scenarios. I never even thought to even do that until now. Yeah, I would give it like a 7 or 8 difficulty. It's not really that crazy. It's just the terrain is hard. I'll give you that. The terrain is very hard to kind of conform and kind of make it look nice, then go from there. And then these coasters here are just money generators. I mean, making $3,000 a month is ridiculous. I think I researched everything in the game or in this map. I researched everything, so I got everything I needed. And then yeah, here's your really simple map. I mean, I don't want to say it like that. Let's go ride the hypercoaster real quick. Hypercoaster was actually interesting to work on. I don't know, it was just something I've never truly tried, is do like a realistic hyper. I say this is pretty realistic to the point of like the space I used and trying to do sweeping turns and bunny hills and all that stuff. It is a money generator, and it runs 3 trains almost perfectly. So I was surprised at that, especially adding a mid-course right here. Yeah, this happens where trains don't clear fast enough. So I've noticed that happens once in a while, but I'm not too concerned about it. I mean, there's a lot of guests already in this park, and there's already a lot of guests already in this coaster directly. And this is scary. This does almost valleys there. Well, whatever. And then it just kind of just coasts itself back into the station. The only difficult thing about this coaster was trying to figure out just remember when I was building this section back here was kind of weird. I don't necessarily love it, but it makes sense in realistic terms that a transfer building would be behind this building, kind of hidden from the view of the guests, and this is just kind of your front area, kind of. And it's a simple Japanese temple, not too realistic, but it kind of portrays what it is. Actually, I should change these stones to some different colors here, just to kind of stain them a little bit, to give it some more life. Staining a flat piece of wall always helps with trying to tell that it's old or, getting old. So let's quickly, where do I want to save this? Let's save it right here. Not where the dragon. Let's just save it right here. We're going to save it. There we go. And then let's go see what the trophy is. It probably is the pagoda, to be honest. It shouldn't be anything else. Yeah, it's the pagoda. Very simple build, very accurate to a pagoda. I do like the style. So that just plops down, and I'm assuming I get Sakura Gardens right after. Yeah. So I still have 3 maps to choose from. But I'm probably going to go back to Hickory Hill, because that's the furthest one out now. The furthest one back, actually. And I think I want to do a Harry Potter theme in a way. Because everybody's all into Hogwarts Legacy, which I just bought the game. So I was interested in trying to do Hogwarts type of Hogsmeade thing in Hickory Hill. I hope it works in vanilla, because I tried doing it in vanilla once before and it didn't work. So I'm going to try it again this round. I will have to do a lot of research for this one. But yeah, all in all, this was a pretty simple scenario. I liked it, enjoyed some of it. The only thing I didn't like was the, well, terrain. But I think it's going to be like that as we progress through the campaign, because I know Kaiserberg's ridiculous with its terrain. Hickory Hill's not that bad. And then Sakura Gardens is just more of a plain area, but I don't want to do Japanese again, so we're going to hold this one off until way later. But I have an idea to do Harry Potter here, and then I have an idea for Kaiserberg later on, but I'm not necessarily set on it just yet. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and thank my patrons for their continued support. You guys are awesome. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, you can. It's I think $3 a month or something like that. You can find the link in the description. And all in all, that was, yeah, that's basically all the housekeeping. And I will see you guys in the next episode. We'll probably do a Hickory Hill, a Harry Potter themed type of build maybe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.